when my stepfather was killed, there was a lot of rumors going through the hood. And I was young. I probably was 14 then. And so my only thought process was like, you got to get to them, kill them, make this happen. And then you felt like that would take the pain away. Even though now at this age, I know that wouldn't have been the answer. And I'm glad I didn't react because it was so many various rumors, because I would have ended up killing the wrong person for who I thought was involved in it. And I didn't find out till my younger brother's funeral, which was his son, where a woman said she was there and she told me the whole story of how my stepfather truly died.
Welcome to the Griefbully podcast. I am your host, J.Nicole. Thank you for joining our weekly discussion around grief, mental health, and your overall personal wellness. The Griefbully podcast will serve as a vehicle to help you navigate life's journey. Be sure to subscribe, review, and share the podcast with anyone in your life that you think it will help. Let's bully grief together. What's up, beautiful people? Welcome back to another episode of the Griefbully podcast. I am your host, J.Nicole. Guys, we are back in the building, rocking and rolling for another episode, and I am not by myself today. I do have a guest, and we're going to get into another, hopefully, healing conversation. I have on the show with me today, Bryant Paden, also known as Slice Maximus.
Yeah, that's running. You threw my government out. That's all good, though. It's all good.
We gotta throw the government out.
Yeah.
You are a guest on the Griefbully podcast, but definitely family to the network, and so we're happy to have you on the show today. So I was thinking, how do I kind of want to get into the conversation? And I started thinking about why I actually even started the Griefbully podcast. And for me, it was, I didn't know what grief was until it was literally at my front door. Meaning, well, until I literally ended up in a front row seat of a funeral to some of the closest people in the world to me. And so I was like, I think I'm going to start with that. As a person growing up, let's just maybe say young adult, teenagers, did you even know what the word grief meant?
I don't think so. Like, I don't know if it was ever a thought of what grief was. It was just sadness. You know what I'm saying? So that you get events that occur and then you're either sad or you're happy. You know what I mean? So it was never a thought of dealing with grief. Cool.
Did you ever hear adults or anybody in your life explain like anything that was going on with those things? And the reason what I'm saying too is because we would go to funerals, have these things, and I just went. I mean, I didn't really understand it until it was actually impacting me.
I don't think, and maybe because they didn't know, I don't think it's something that's taught, at least at that point in time, years ago, growing up, being young when it first started happening. You know what I mean? So, no, there was never an adult teaching you about grief. It was never no one telling you truly how to deal with grief. It's just something that you dealt with or learned along the way.
No, definitely. I mean, and so grief by definition is deep sorrow. Mm-hmm. It's not necessarily speaking about death, but I felt that my mission and my purpose was to really have more open conversations about that experience, because I feel like especially communities of color, like we just go through so much trauma, so many different things, and then it's not explained or we're not having those
and we don't talk about it. It's very difficult to talk about when you don't know what to talk about. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, definitely. And I think, like you said, as far as like the adults in our lives, I don't know that they knew, or the people before them really explained it. And then from a religious standpoint, I feel like that was kind of where I did have some understanding, but it was more so like we shouldn't necessarily be sad. And it started, funerals were becoming called celebrations of life.
Yeah.
That's kind of confusing.
They kind of throw that out there. I think when you speak the religious side of it, I think that is part of the problem when talking about younger people dealing with grief, because when you got the old grandparents and you got the parents that tell you don't question God, or, you know what I'm saying, they're in a better place, and they sell you all of these things that when dealing with grief, that they're not really taking the time to deal with the emotional standpoint that happens from a loss of anything that's dear to you. You know what I'm saying?
No, I definitely understand it, and I agree with that as well. And I think, again, so having the show and a platform so we could have those open conversations, and I've had tons of people sit in the seat where you are right now. And I'm going to be honest, it has become difficult because it's like I want to talk about things, but then when it's really an opportunity to talk about it, it's still kind of a little bit apprehensive. So as I mentioned, me being at a younger age, the first loss I experienced was my grandfather when it was in 1996. I was young. I was only 11. Then I lost a close friend. I lost my father, my grandmother, and things like that. What has your experience been like, or the first
Major
introduction or major loss that you remember?
It goes back to about 11, 12 as well. I had a friend named Sultan, and we used to play basketball together every day. And he ended up getting killed in my neighborhood in the park and left in
When
a
you were
dumpster.
11 or 12?
Yeah, my first friend. But I grew up on a really violent drug block, and so as the years went on, the numbers began to increase more and more. But that was like my first true loss of a close friend. I was about 11 or 12.
Did you have like a service that you had to like go to?
Yeah, they had a service, but the crazy thing about me, when so many things happen, a lot gets blocked out. I don't know if I do it intentionally. I know my homie GB talks about how so many events, until he talks about them, they're totally blacked out of my memory. So you know what I mean. I always joke like, man, I need to get counseling, and I always preach like, it's hard, y'all can get therapy. Y'all, I tell her, all the fans and stuff at home, but it's very difficult to take that first step, even when you're promoting that it's cool to do. So like being here for me, this is probably like the first time even speaking on a lot of things that's not with my closest.
Wow.
You know what I mean? So it's a big step.
No, you said something right there that was kind of like a cheat code and an unlock to healing, is that even though you promote it, even though you know that it could potentially be something good, that first step is kind of, and so I look at this platform too as a bridge. So it's like, some people have told me straight up that they don't want to go to therapy, that they want to come and talk on here or talk to me. And I'm like, guys, I'm not a therapist, but I also am going to create the opportunity for us to have that conversation.
That dialogue. Yeah. So I don't know. Like I said, it's difficult to, I don't want to say it's difficult to promote it, because I mean, I definitely believe for certain people talking about it, getting the proper help from professionals could be very beneficial to people who's going through grief and sorrow. But it's the dynamics of how you grow up too. It's somewhere along the line we're taught that you deal with it. You know what I'm saying? It's almost ingrained in our brains that you just deal with certain stuff.
Yeah, I mean, if you think about it, one of the sentences that, I don't know if it stuck with you or if you had this, but stop crying before I give you something to cry about.
Oh yeah, we got that. But I was probably low key abused as a child, so okay. But yeah, my mom was real stern on me. So yeah, you heard that a lot. You know what I'm saying? But I don't know if that was the start of it though, or if that's
I'm just throwing it out there as far as like just a part of it, just a part of like the framework, if you will, maybe.
Yeah, I think when you're younger and you come from such a high crime block, it's just, I don't even think it's the lessons that your parents teach you. I think it's your peers. And the little older guys, the OGs or whatever, will pour beer out, and they'll show their way of dealing with grief, but it truly was never a conversation. You know what I'm saying? So you learn to grow. It's like, damn, it's fucked up. We celebrate the life by pouring beer, or they smoke weed, or do whatever they do to pay homage to that person, and then it's like time goes on, you move on.
Yeah, do you think that that's to an extent good and bad, because you have experienced a lot of losses, and that we all have experienced a lot of losses. So to one extent, we do need that time to be able to like openly communicate about it. But the other side of it is we also do need to possess the ability to grieve well, to move through it, to grieve and grow. So I kind of feel like it could be a little bit of both. Or what do you think?
Yeah, I think it's important. And I think as we get older and get more educated, like for my child, hopefully I'll get enough knowledge to give her more and to just let her know, like, oh, it's cool to cry, or it's cool to go through whatever stages or whatever ways you got to deal with this pain in order to heal, that it's okay. You know what I'm saying? And luckily I don't have a son. I think I would be a lot harder on my son, only because I think that's, again, like I tell you, it's kind of ingrained in us to be tough for survival. So I would just hope to learn more and to be able to help the next person that's beneath me in feeling comfortable to speak about or do whatever it takes to heal.
What's hurting you the most that you haven't talked about? Could be past, present.
It's I don't know. It's quite a few things, but I would think so much. I don't know. I would say probably it's all wrapped up in one. So I lost my stepfather, y'all. Right? He was killed out kind of on the same block where I'm talking about where there's a lot of murders that happen. And so for years I didn't know, who did it or what happened until in 2013 his son died in a car accident. His son was like the last piece that I had of him. So his son was like almost like my younger brother / son because he was younger and we took him under the wing. I got him into coaching. I always kind of devoted my life to making sure that he made some of the right decisions. And so when he passed in a car accident, it took a lot. It took everything of him and his son away from me all at once. So it kind of brought everything back full circle. So that kind of me up bad. I don't know. Can I curse on this, John? My bad. Did I mess up?
You can keep it.
Bleep that out for me.
Yeah.
So it kind of messed me up real bad. And so I think with that, it kind of brought it back to life for me. Well, that's a horrible oxymoron, but it kind of.
No, I think it's actually pretty good. I think it's actually pretty good. I think it's a reality of what you said. What did it bring up for you the most? Like anger, or did you feel like you owed your stepfather to protect his son, or what was?
I don't think it was the ode to protect. I think it was the first time. I think losing somebody and it wasn't no form of thought that I could retaliate in my mind. So when my stepfather was killed, there was a lot of rumors going through the hood. And I was young. I probably was 14 then. And so my only thought process was like, you got to get to them, kill them, make this happen. And then you felt like that would take the pain away. Even though now at this age, I know that wouldn't have been the answer. And I'm glad I didn't react because it was so many various rumors because I would have ended up killing the wrong person for who I thought was involved in it. And I didn't find out till my younger brother's funeral, which was his son, where a woman said she was there and she told me the whole story of how my stepfather truly died. She used to be a drug addict, and he was in the streets a little bit, and so I got the real story. So it's just how life works. But it was at that point in time when I lost my younger brother, Coach Charlie, or whatever I call him now, Doug, we call him. It was like, I didn't know if I felt worse that he wasn't killed because I was helpless. For the first time, you know what I mean, when it came to something like that, I felt like I couldn't retaliate. It was nothing that I could do.
Powerlessness is something that will definitely bring you to your knees. Did you cry about any of these situations? And I'm asking because I have been, I don't know, shocked, I guess is the best word, but kind of, I guess, shocked to hear that this is for actually both a man and a woman that I heard this, never cried until their 20s, late 20s. Like that's.
I'll say, yes, I did cry. But it was like, so I'll describe. With my stepfather, I can't remember. I remember, funeral time crying. But I don't know how much I cried in that time. As I was older with his son, Charlie Dub, who I'm talking about, I didn't have time to cry because at the time when I came to the hospital, he was kind of on life support. You know what I'm saying? So I had to deal with being the only next to kin that was around at that point in time. And then dealing with the whole funeral process. It was like a lot was put on me to make sure that it went. So I cried funeral day, and then I didn't cry for a while. I think probably disbelief, one of them stages of grief or whatever to a certain degree. And then one day I was just in the house and I went in the living room and one morning while my daughter and baby mom was sleeping in the other room and I probably cried for like an hour straight, like hysterical crying, swinging at the air, fighting. It's like, for some reason, I guess that's my defense mechanism. It's like I begin to fight. You know what I mean? Even though there's nothing there, it's like I'm punching the air. It becomes a very violent thing to fight it. But you know what I mean? It's weird.
Nah, it's not weird at all.
It's not weird, but it's
I get
weird.
What you're saying.
Yeah.
I get what you're saying. It's kind of reminding me of, again,
Trey from Boys in the Hood. Yeah, I hate that. I only had that experience one time when I should have forced some guy in school. And I backed down and I went home and I worked on all the moves I should have hit him with.
I'm sorry. I'm glad we can. Oh my gosh, I'm glad we can laugh, keep it crying because I'm not lying to you when you were saying that.
That's how it is.
In his living room, in his house, swinging like that. That's a real powerful scene in a movie.
Yeah, I'm gonna tell you something that I don't think I told too many people, or only the people who sleep next to me might know. So, um, even when I think of death to the point of me dying or whatever, when I think too hard about it, and this could be as faith decreasing me in certain ways, similar things happen. Like even to this day, like if I'm thinking about it too hard and I begin to swing and punch like violently because I'm like, it's like I'm trying to fight something. I'm trying to fight. Not that I'm going to fight death off, but I don't really quite understand that mechanism. You know what I'm saying? And so, um, my homie GB say I got PTSD. So when we go on coaches trips or whatever, a lot of times I was having, I don't want to call them nightmares, but somewhat nightmares where I'm constantly fighting. You know what I'm saying? Like I wake up, I'm fighting people in my sleep. I feel like Men in Black is chasing me. It's like real weird dreams, but I'm constantly fighting. You know what I'm saying? And I'm always fighting like out my sleep. I'm fighting when I'm thinking too hard. But it's usually when dealing with something revolving around death, murder, loss, that type of thing.
That's deep.
Yeah.
That's deep. I'm going to be really curious when you do go to therapy and you talk about that, because we're speaking into
If I make it there, if I make it there, if I make it there, yeah.
That, to see what that means. I mean, I like I said, I mean, there's a lot of things there, but just like the powerlessness in it, and then again, only thing I wanted to just get a little clarity when you were saying that you don't understand the mechanism of death or of why you're responding that way.
Why I'm responding that way.
Okay.
And I know it probably has a lot to do. I can't say that because even when I had the faith, more faith, I'll use that as I guess the way to communicate it. I still had these issues, but I think it's probably worse now that I think I've begun to lose some of the faith in religion and different things of that nature.
Why?
Why did I lose the faith?
Yeah, what's happening? What's happening? Because this is the thing. I'm gonna give you a second to think about your answer, and the reason why I say that is because a lot of times you either can gain more faith because you need that anchor, or again, you could be angry at God, mad, not believing it. It's not making sense. I've had my own experiences, but I want to hear from you. Why do you believe your faith has been diminished?
I don't think I'm angry at God. I think it's also probably over time, like even dealing with people who I care about. My daughter's mother at the time, she's like, I don't want to say a holy roller, but she's deep into Jesus. And so a lot of Christians, when they're into it so heavy, it's like you either believe this or you burn in hell, right? And as I got older, my thought process got wiser, and even to the God that I pray to, I don't feel that the same way that it was taught to me as a kid growing up. So when I think about, and I asked her this question, when I think about the rest of the world, people who's born Muslim and everything else, if you telling me because babies are being taught a particular religion that they're forced to burn in hell for eternity, I don't know if that's the type of God I praise. You know what I'm saying? I don't think it makes sense. And you'll have people tell you that, Jesus will reveal himself to all and all other things that we were taught. But certain things don't make sense, and I can't rationalize it. And I have my own relationship when speaking with God, and it's just not that way. You know what I'm saying? So I'm going to always have complications. So I think the more that I pulled away from some of those beliefs or some of the things, I guess the more concerned about afterlife it might be a fight. You know what I'm saying?
So you think that you might have a fight in the afterlife?
I don't know.
You don't know?
Not a fight in the afterlife, but more of a fight of what happens next.
Okay.
As opposed to just having blind faith that it's gonna be heaven and I'm gonna drink from Cambodian breast milk and all all type of beautiful things that's gonna happen. You know what I'm saying? It's like
there's a lot of people out there that might think that's a really beautiful thing.
And that's cool. But you
I've never heard that.
So no, but and then you think about this, right? I have a child who I love dearly, right? Mm-hmm. So if it's taught to me that if I don't believe exactly what she believes, that once we leave this earth, she'll be somewhere else and I'll be burning in eternal fire. It's a tough one to swallow. So it's just with religion, I think if you don't have that blind faith and you begin to read that it was 24 books that's written exactly like the story of Christ and all these different things, it begins to, you start to add logic in with faith, and it can make you different.
it can make your head spin.
Yeah.
A lot of it can make your head spin. I mean, I think just going through different experiences and realizing certain things. Actually, on the car ride here, I was having a conversation about just like cremation. And that was one of the experiences for me personally that like made me start it started really messing with my mind because so my father was cremated. So my grandfather was one of the first biggest losses. I was again 11, so I didn't have anything to do with that, like his end of life care or the decisions made for him. My grandmother, she was buried. I always knew she was going to be buried. Now my father, he didn't necessarily want a funeral, and then like from a financial standpoint as well. And so I was faced with the decision, and my brothers are just like, okay, what are we going to do? So he was cremated. So the thing for me is like his cremains are at my house, and just trying to process the whole thing, like it is spirit and all that. And so again, I'm a believer. I'm navigating the journey just like you. Certain life experiences can throw things in, just change your mind. But I do think that death, for me, is one of those things that has made my mind like I don't know.
So,
I don't know.
Funny you speak of cremation because as you get older, you begin to lose people, right? So you start to be more mature. Like, I got to get ready to plan these funerals for myself and for other loved ones as well. And I always tell my uncle and mom, like, I don't want to be cremated. I don't want to burn twice in case I got to go down and burn some more. So I always tell them, like, yo, just throw me in the school kill. It doesn't matter. I'm dead. Don't waste money on a funeral. I'd rather my daughter see that money. But and this could be me, I just think the body going back to the earth, and whether I become a plant or food for the next, I think that's the way of reincarnation. I don't know if we come back again, but I think that's just the way you go back into the universe and live forever. So I would hate to just be, and this is no disrespect, just like the ashes that's in the urn. I'd rather be a plant. I'd rather grow and live again. So, you know what I mean? And that's just, that's weird that I think about myself. Don't tell nobody at home who watch Talkheavy. But I do
they
feel
might
like,
see this.
Yeah, they might see this. They definitely going to see this. So it's weird. It's weird thought processes. It's things you don't tell people that I'm telling you. But I do feel like that I have to go back and do something even in the afterlife. You know what I mean? Here to keep the world going.
Listen, this is why we have the conversations, because you just don't know where it's going to go through. And I always say, like, when you lose somebody, it's never just that one isolated loss. So meaning like, okay, your person died, you just have to deal with burying them, the funeral, whatever, and deal with that. There's so many like cousins of that death. So one is this, where your mind starts to kind of, one thing I've struggled with, again, people out there, be easy on us. I have been frustrated at times that the people that I've lost, if I'm talking to them or wanting their like presence to like come around, it's kind of like, hey, like if things happen the way they do, where where are you? So I've felt that way, and then I've also felt the opposite, where I have felt their presence, and I'm like, am I really feeling their presence, or do like I just want to feel their presence? Is this like, it's just a lot, man. It really is. And I don't know if I'm just grasping for straws because I miss my people, but it's like, okay, you have some people who have tons of signs, and then I have people who I've had conversations with that they're like, never had a sign, never, I don't know. And that makes people feel kind of like a way. So it's like, if I'm sharing that my grandma sent me this sign or this happened, and then the people like, no, that's never happened to me. How does it feel? Like, does my person not
exist?
Deal
I know
with
what you're saying.
me, or they like, what happened?
Very deep. You like the mental stuff that occur with grief it changes your personality. So, damn it. All right. So let me. I'm all over the place because when I'm there. All right. So let me tell you how my brain works, and people might not know this about me. 90 million things run through my brain at the same time, and I'm like a computer, so I'm constantly processing. So I jump all over the place. But I know from grief and loss that my mom, when I was younger, wouldn't let me have a pet because it was always like, we can't afford to feed ourselves. You can never have a pet. So when my daughter got older and wanted a pet, I used to always shoot it down, but not because of hunger, right? I didn't never want to love anything extra unnecessary that I had to lose. So to this day, I still never gave my daughter a pet. But recently, a couple, man, how long we had this? I had this cat like a year and a half. I got a cat for her. She wanted a kitten. I got this kitten. I would go get this kitten, and then she tells me she don't want the damn cat. So I end up now I have this cat, but I still don't really try to love this cat, but so much because it's just I think it's ingrained in me. I don't want to. It's something in me that loves what I love, and I love hard, and I just don't want, I guess, unnecessary losses. It's like I could do without this extra cat that's going to die in probably 9 years or whenever it's going to kick the bucket. You know what I'm saying? So
No, when you said that, that could have literally just summed up the whole episode. That fear of, you didn't say the word fear. I'm saying fear because I've had that where it's like I don't want to get close to so I gotta bury you. You gonna die because this is weird. Before my grandmother died, this is gonna sound so crazy.
This is sound so crazy podcast with you and I. But go ahead.
Episode, we remixing it. I felt like my family was safe. Like my people, they never died. Like my grandfather, I was so young, but like the thought of my grandmom dying for me was like the world is over. Life as I know it is done. When that happened, that was the most pivotal change in who I am as a person. Like everything from my vantage point, it became completely fair game. My matriarch, my person, my world is gone. So much so to say that when my own dad passed away, I was able to cope and process that much more because the worst thing already happened.
That's
one
heavy.
of because my mom is still.
So,
but I'm just saying.
I didn't have the same experience, so it was a lot of deaths. Homies, friends, cousins, you know what I mean, uncles. Uncle killed in front of the door, same block. Stepdad killed there, friends killed there. It's like a lot. So, but what it did change of me is that a lot of times when people die, and I'm saying natural cause, who my grandmother, who I love dearly, and as I lost people, my mind state is that life's so short. I can't stop cursing. Pardon me again. Life's so short, right? I look at it like, man, I'm gonna be there soon anyway. So I don't, and that could be a heavy defense mechanism, but I don't want to say I don't grieve because I'm sad, but I think that is the way I deal with that. Hey, this is going to happen to all of us, and I'm looking at the clock. I'm probably halfway through if I make it, if I'm lucky enough. You know what I'm saying?
I think, to be honest, more people probably operate in life the exact way that you said. Two things I want to just clarify on is that grief is the inward thinking process of it. Mourning is the outward expression. So you're not necessarily maybe mourning the losses, but the grief clearly from what you've been stating is in your mind. It's there. So mourning is like grief going public.
Okay.
So that could be the crying, it could be talking, it could be whatever it is. I mean, there's a variety of things, but that's one thing it is because we all have experienced grief. Grief again is deep sorrow, but the mourning is actually expressing that. Yeah. So that might be kind of like, from what I'm understanding, where that differs.
And you talked about like people, you feel like it's signs or the spirits or messages that's being given, and I don't know if I felt that yet, but I do know like lessons that certain people taught me, like young, stuck with me so much that I feel like that part built me and stayed with me through life. So I feel like it's countless times where experiences happen and I resort back to what a loved one taught me, like my stepfather, right? I think I was younger. I was talking about, oh man, we poor or whatever. We don't have this. And he was like, you're rich. And I was like almost like, what do you mean we rich? And then he blindfolded me. And he said, it's people who will pay anything to have your vision. You know what I mean? He said, if you take away your seeing here, you will give up all the money. And so it made me value money a different way. You know what I'm saying? I realized that it wasn't of the magnitude and what I thought of importance. It was. So that was one of the things that stuck with me forever. And it's always that when his son died, who coached in our youth organization, we hadn't won a championship ever. At that point, he always wanted to win a championship. So at the funeral, a lot of the old players from all over the city, they came back and we put together this team to go win the championship for him. And in overtime, and like to a team we wasn't supposed to beat at the time or was predicted that we wouldn't win, they won the championship for him. So on that day, I felt like that person was watching, but I didn't really feel it. It was just the joy of feeling like I set out a mission to please that person even in the afterlife, and we did it. And we went on to win for the next or to be in championships for the next 8 to 9 years off of that run. But it's just like sometimes I just think the mission in which that person gave you or the knowledge that person gave you is so much more impactful that I don't really feel like any spirits or anything like that. Or it could be just my thoughts. I don't believe that they're here on earth.
No, listen, thank you for sharing that. I think too, one thing I used to always say was that the way that I live my life every day to make them proud is the most genuine conversation that we can have.
I think that.
And so I've taken that same thing you're saying to an extent, and it's like it does make me feel better to operate that way, because the mental torment and anguish that it would occupy my mind and my time to try to get a clear understanding of what has happened, where they are, what's going on, all these things. It's just like, listen, these people were my why when they were alive. It's just going to be even deeper now, because I can't say certain things. But like you said, my therapist told me, because I did make it. So
At least you made it there.
I made it a lot. I actually started being like I was speed dating therapists. I was just going to so many therapy people all the time. But was that if I listened close enough, I would hear them. Not actually like a spooky spirit, but I know my grandmother enough. I know my dad enough. I know them enough to know that if I was in a situation, what advice they would give me. It takes a lot to breathe life into the intangible relationship when the tangible one is gone. But for me, trying to do that is what has allowed me to sustain over time, because if I didn't and I was like, man, it's over, they died, it's just finished, that's hard. Rather than me being like, okay, well, something as simple. We talked about my hair before we hit replay. I could cry thinking about it, actually.
Yeah, I cry when I think about my hair also.
I mean, you do have reason. But my grandmother, so I started to lock my hair in 2016 or 2015, and she passed away in 2016, that March. And my hair was a lot shorter. So for her to see my hair this long now, like she would be like so amazed. And so for me, it's like my hair now has even more of a commitment to myself and my personal feelings. That's why you were like, oh, I'll just trim it. I can't cut it, but I'm like, oh man, my grandma would love my hair. She was seeing where it was and just like those kind of things. So it continues if you choose to learn to grieve well and carry the experiences with you. But I do think one thing I didn't experience a lot of is anger. And I feel like sometimes when people have a lot of anger in their grieving process, or because again, there's death and loss is complicated. It depends on what happened and how things went. It has allowed me to move through a little bit more, carry it. It's not as much anger things. My friend passed away in just 2024 now, but she passed away in a car accident and she was only 31. Something like that brings me more anger than like the loss of my grandmother and my dad. Those things hurt me tremendously. They all did, but that is a different kind of thing than bringing like anger. So like you're saying, you're young, people are getting killed left and right. Like I feel like that could bring a little more anger.
A little anger. I think I'm more angry when I watch, like, so when friends die that's in the drugs and in the other stuff, I'm not as angry. I hate to say it, you condition that, though, that's how life goes. You're sad, you know what I'm saying? It's like, yo, you know what you was getting into. So it's more sadness than anger. When I watch the news and a 2-year-old is shot from some loser, for better lack of profanity that I use too much, that begins to anger me. Or when I see, not even to death, like teenage kids beating an old lady up on the bus for no real, just those things bring about that anger. So there are times where grief or sorrow or whatever brings about anger for me, but I don't think it's just with the loss to someone, if that makes sense. But even talking with friends is very helpful through the process. And sometimes some people say some stuff that's so impactful that I never think about it. So I was talking with Devin Wade, friend of ours, just last week, and he was saying that it's kind of crazy that when a person die, right, that's the age you remember them of in your brain. And so that was like, I don't know, it was some astonishing stuff. Because when I thought about it, I'm like, that person never gets older in my brain. You know what I mean? And so when you talk about the difference in the here and the thought process, it just brings about just the psyche. It's just different when you lose somebody you love. You know what I mean?
I could relate to that. One of my friends, one of the biggest losses I had, her dad, I remember him saying that. He was like, she's always going to be 25. So then, like, you see her friends getting married, having children, like, doing these certain things, and it's like, she only was 20, like, up to 25. But then on, like, social media and stuff, we continue to post, like, happy heavenly birthday to, like, these people. And I'm like, oh, my grandmama's like, no, but she died when she was 78. So her being 80, like,
yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
I know
so
exactly
it's a
what
lot.
you're saying.
It's a lot of stuff when it comes to that. When my grandma's 75th birthday, I got her a cake. I ordered her a cake to have her prom picture on it because it was going to be like so funny because like whatever. She was the prom queen, so shout out to my grandma.
Shout out to all the prom queens.
Yeah, y'all got a baddie. But she was there, and so I went to go pick up the cake, and they didn't do it that way. They did it without the picture, some other thing. And when I'm telling you, I was going crazy.
Yeah, it made you lose it.
And the lady said to me, "There's always 80." My grandma died when she was 78. So it's like people just say things or like you don't value necessarily like those moments, but no, that's when she passed away. Like I don't know past that, but I totally understand. Your friend, you was 11 and 12.
Yeah.
Like you're
44.
You're young. I was trying to check your beard.
No, so first of all, I'll teach you that secret later. Yeah, so it's years and years later. You know what I mean? And then when you think about it, it's like you're older than what your pop was at that time. When you really think about it, I'm older than my uncle would ever be, but to my vision of him, he's always older, right? Well, I'm talking about one of my uncles. Or
I understand.
Whoever.
Yeah.
It's like he was 21, I'm 10 or something, man. Couldn't stand him, he's bullying me and all that, but I still look at him as older, despite the fact he never reached this age, which is crazy. I never even thought about that process.
Yeah, this is something. This is like a really deep conversation. I definitely appreciate that. I've got to ask you this question because I always ask everyone.
Anything you want. Cause, I mean, I don't have too much of a filter. I protect the profanity though.
No. It's just so. If you had to choose a color for your grief, what would it be and why?
For my grief?
Yep.
A color? Damn. I don't know. Probably white.
Okay.
White. I would think the white would represent hopefully some type of, and this sounds so fucking racist, I hate it, prejudice. Why do I relate white and clouds and heaven? No,
Slice, I am not your therapist.
We going black, you know what I'm saying? Yeah, you gotta get me right. So for me, black is my favorite color. Okay. I think black is most beautiful. I don't think grief and death is most beautiful for me. So it's hard to relate that to black. I hate that I selected white for grief, but I would think just something about and it's probably the imagery of television and everything else white has done. It's like when you think about afterlife, you think about heaven, when you think it's always the white clouds and the white mist and the white fog. And so I would relate that more to my grief because it's like, shit, I probably should have went with black. I blacked so much out. I don't know. That's deep. A lot of my thoughts and memories is blacked out till I think about it, and then the whole story come back. So I don't know. We're gonna go with zebra. Can we go with zebra color?
You know what? Honestly, this is the first time in the history of the Griefbully podcast
my brain
that
don't work
we've
well.
had grief described in an animal.
Zebra color.
It's an animal. Look, I'm gonna start to say, if you had to choose a color, an animal, an object, or a shape for your grief, what would it be?
Zebra color.
And why?
Yeah, it's mixed up. But if I had to choose, it's no in between. It's either black or white. And I mean, and that could be a good thing. My grandpa lived to like 100.
Okay.
And it was a good thing. I had great memories with him. I mean, at that time, you feel like, hey man, you outdid everybody. You best of luck to you up there. Mm-hmm. You kind of don't feel the same sadness as when it's probably a natural cause as opposed to when someone's ripped away from you or a freak accident. And like I said, sometimes it's sad. I had a god sister, and they burned up in a fire. You know what I'm saying? In a house, and that was very difficult because although we didn't talk every day, she would, and I tell people this, she would just text me on Facebook and say, I love you. You know what I'm saying? And where you're in a situation where most people call you, they need something or want you to do something or want you to coast. It was never, it was like, it kind of made me more like that, like she was. It was like, you know what? I'm going to just tell this person I love him just because I'm thinking about him. I have nothing. And even like with a lot of my friends, because the last things I said to my stepbrother when I dropped him off at the party probably the night before they got into the car accident and crashed out was I love him. So I felt like I sleep better. So when I talk to some of my younger guys or some of my friends, we don't leave without saying I love you, a lot of us. And I think that works well for me because I feel like if this does happen tonight for either one of us, you know, I feel better at the funeral. You don't leave with regrets, I guess.
Woo! That's man, that is a powerful thing, and I'm glad you shared that because I think as we wind down the episode, I think that's something that we can definitely leave people with. I saw something on social media. I wish I could take credit for it, but I feel the same way when you deal with a lot of different losses and things, and like you actually use the phrase when someone is ripped from you. So when you use a lot of that, you can choose to, and most of us do realize that things can change very quickly. And so what I saw on social media was you never really understand the true value of a moment until it's a memory. And then I added, and there will come a day where memories are all you'll have.
Yeah, that's heavy.
That's heavy. I'm talking heavy.
Yeah, you talking heavy.
Talking heavy. It's contagious.
It's contagious when I come in the room. You talking heavy.
It's contagious around here. So I'll just ask you your thoughts on that, and then we'll kind of get out of here.
I agree heavily. And I seen it posted. I think it might have been on Monica's page, one of our former co-hosts, and I hate to misquote. It was on her page or somebody's page close to her, and it just was like something to the nature like, you don't appreciate the pictures till that's all you have, or something of that nature. And I think that gave me the same similar feeling of it. Like sometimes, man, once the physical is gone, all you have is those memories. And like I said, hopefully that, and this is probably part of the reason why I coach football. This is probably part of the reason I mentor in the way that I am. I hope that when I leave this earth, that I've left something for somebody to move. And I try my best to leave something that helps their life move forward, or that they can leave to their kids, or some type of advice or something that I leave behind. Because, you know, I thought I was going to be Malcolm X or somebody in life. And here I'm on the podcast with Dev and GB and Monica all the during time. But I did think I was going to, like when I envisioned who I would be, I envisioned somebody that would be very impactful when helping their community. And I do in my own way. But I hope that when I leave, it has value to someone's life and for generations. You know what I mean?
Man, you definitely giving Malcolm and Martin vibes with that, the way that you just
a little less nonviolent, but I got
you.
I got you.
I love it, and I appreciate that, and I appreciate you coming on and open up your heart. It takes a lot of bravery and courage, and just it's a dope thing. So when you talk about leaving your legacy, you just did that here because this is evergreen.
And this wasn't easy. I don't want people to think this is easy at home to do, to have these conversations and to kind of. All right, I'll say this before we get out of here.
Go ahead.
When doing it on Talkheavy and telling our trauma, you'll see myself and GB and Dev, and we're cracking up and we're making jokes about it. And we're a lot of times unknowingly, these are defense mechanisms. You feel better laughing and joking about the trauma than to have the conversation and to really pour your heart out about some of it. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, this wasn't easy to do. It's major, you know what I mean? But it's healthy.
Nah, listen, I appreciate it. And I'll tell you, too, I would argue the stat, I don't know 100%. The majority of my guests have been men of color. And that's a beautiful thing for me because I just know I have brothers. I know the experience, not firsthand, but just as far as being communicative and expressive and opening up and feeling that way. So thank you for that. And listen to you guys that are watching the show. Just remember, like, the things that you're fixated on and what you think are most important probably aren't. And that what J. Cole was talking about, the house that you live in and not worrying about it because of the people, I think he cursed, MFers that live in there. As long as they love you, like, that's important. So just, like, hold on to love
It's the most important.
Don't be afraid to express yourself. Reach out for help. Talk about it. Losing people that you love is not easy. It's something that we got to deal with. And as you see, myself and Slicer here trying to navigate still after a lot of losses. Where do we stand on what side of it? So you're not crazy. You're not alone. You're grieving. I appreciate you tuning in. Make sure that you check out the other shows we have rocking. Talkheavy, Devin Wade, all of that good stuff. And thank you for tuning in to the Grief Bully. Drop us some comments. Let us know your thoughts. All that good stuff. And if you're not following already, where can they go follow you?
I don't know. Slice Maximus at everything. The Talkheavy podcast. I'm messed up. I don't know. I'm just happy that you allowed me to come on and I enjoyed myself.
You'll be able to find him somewhere.
Yeah, you'll find me somewhere.
Thank you for being here. I appreciate it, guys. And if you're not following me already, you know where to do that. Over on Instagram at I_am_J.Nicole, guys. So next time, you already know. Love and light. Peace.
Thank you. All right, so I got some bonus questions for you. And you tell me if you ever experienced it or if anyone you ever talked to experienced it. So, one of my closest cousins, right, who I contribute to probably saving my life, keeping me out of the streets and putting me in sports and teaching me how to play, had a nervous breakdown a few years ago. And although, you know, they're okay with the meds and different things in that, they're right, but they're not the same person. And I just wanted to know, have you ever experienced it? Because a lot of times when a person kind of is not in the right mind or not the same person, you almost put them in the same category as that person is dead. And you experience, for me, some type of emotional sadness, or I want to call it grief with that, or an older relative that just may have Alzheimer's. And even though they're here in the physical, and you know what I mean, but without them having that memory or that function, it's like, it's almost like a death. And would you consider that being a part of the grief, or have you experienced that in some way, shape, form, or fashion?
That is such an on-time question. I actually have two thoughts on it. First is to answer your question is yes, in terms of how grief is defined, because it's a deep sorrow again, but also grieving the living is real. So there are people who grieve the loss of relationships. So maybe someone may have a parent that's alive and they don't have a relationship with them. That's hard. I know someone personally right now that's going through this, where they had their parent has something medically happen, and so they're still with us. And of course, you know, we're still counting and believing God for it to full restore. But everything is different. And then also, as far as the mental part of it goes, I personally have experienced something where, again, person is alive, still don't know clearly what the exact issue is mentally, but I had to be around him, and I still right now I'm in shock, because it's like, okay, like you're here, you're alive, you're well, but you're not like yourself. So long story short, yes, it is real. And I'm gonna be honest, when one of my friends reached out about that same topic, I said, to some extent, I feel like it could be worse than someone actually dying.
Without having a conclusion to it.
Yeah, that could sound kind of crazy, but the person responded back to me in a sense of like, it's a little bit like torture. Because when the people that I lost that died, it was like, okay, even though I don't always accept it and I go back and forth with just the fact that you're not here, I do know that I went to your funeral or whatever, and I saw this happen. I know that that's not here. I know you're not going to call me. I'm not going to be able to call you. But someone that is alive, that parts of them are not, or how you knew them, that's tough. Because I feel like to an extent that hope is like a little bit in that frustration.
That hope might be the torture.
It's like, how did we even get here? You don't recognize me. One of my friends' grandmother has dementia. I know it changes between dementia depending on the stages, and it goes to Alzheimer's, but I don't know. And I wasn't aware fully. Like I had maybe, but we were having an interaction, and immediately after her and I were done talking, I walked away from that car crying.
It hurt.
It's like, what? Like,
yeah, my grandmother, I don't know if you died of dementia, but I'll say she had dementia.
No, you do.
Yo, so I'll say one of my grandmothers died of dementia, and that was very difficult too. When, like, it kind of, you saying like you go there and the person you've known all your life kind of don't remember you the same, or get flashes of remembering you, and then now you're a stranger again. And so, you know what I mean? It's almost like you said, almost like more torturous than the person moving on.
No, definitely. I mean, I think it is, and this could come off a little bit funny, maybe, I don't know. But breakups are also a thing where you listen to these songs and stuff like that, and like it make you cry and you get all those things. But I think we underestimate the impact that breakups have. I mean, it can like literally like make you sick. Like obviously people really go through a lot, and a lot of bad things happen because of the pain from breakups. But that's the same thing. Something died there, like something was severed for whatever reason, and so but you know that person is still there, but not with you. It's hard.
It changes you as a person, certain breakups, and not just I always joke on the show about the pain and you crying with the oldies. We call it the dark room, right? When you're dealing with the grief, we say you got to go in the dark room, deal with it, come out of it. But it does change you. So like where I've been in some relationships that I thought would last forever, I could see the grave sites next to each other with me and this person. After that comes to an end 1 or 2 times, you then start, for me, it's very difficult to get into a relationship not expecting it to eventually end. You know what I mean? Which then could be very difficult with like wanting to marry. It's like, oh, this thing could end. You know what I'm saying? And so I watched it change. Certain relationships changed me as well. You know what I mean? Being honest and transparent about how relationships could affect grief a certain way and mentally change a human being.
Yeah, definitely. I think something that someone had reached out to me before. No, she posted about it. So this person was adopted, and their birth mother passed away not too long ago. And it was like, well, you know, that person died, and I didn't get answers to certain things. You know, maybe it was like, why did this happen, or why did you give me away, or why couldn't you, et cetera, right? And that's hard because that ended, but someone else made a point and was like, but you didn't get those answers up into the point of that person's passing. Don't torment yourself because you may have just never gotten them either way.
Yeah.
But I think when a person is alive and you're grieving them while they're alive, you're not grieving them per se, but you're grieving that relationship. That's hard.
Yeah.
That's a really hard thing to do. I have that with like somebody, and there's nothing wrong with their like terms of their mind mentally or anything like that, but just like the way that our relationship used to be and how it is now is something I could have never imagined. And when I'm talking about sleepless nights, complete just like stress and just like, wow, this is hard. I had to turn it over and say, hey, relationships change. Things change. My grandmother used to always say to me, don't make plans. And I'm like, what? No, how can I not make plans and life doesn't make sense? And now it makes a lot of sense.
Don't it?
It's like, I don't know if she literally meant it, because obviously we have to plan things, but be prepared and understand that things are going to change, and they will change very quickly.
So my best friend lost his mother probably a year or two ago. And she, you know, it's my best friend, so she was like a mother to me as well. But I watch, he's no longer the same person. And he tells me it's no pain like losing a parent. And I'm blessed to still have my biological parents alive. So, you know what I mean? Even with me being so close to her, I can't relate to the effect, the change that it had on him. And we talk about events. When you're used to that person being at the cookout or whatever the case may be, it changes you. You almost don't enjoy these events the same. So I don't know what level of therapy, or if you ever get over it, you just, as you say, accept that this is the next chapter in my life and life changes.
Yeah, I think grief is the thing. Grief is not a problem to be solved. So a lot of people are attempting to solve it and to be able to become in control of it and to have power back. Because that's essentially what I have experienced, is that I lost a lot of power. I'm a very solution-driven person, so the way that I fix things is to fix things. So, but when someone dies, I can't fix it. I can't fix myself. I can't fix what happened. I can't change it. I can't go backwards, and that's uncomfortable. This is something that might be very eye-opening for some people here, is that how you do life is how you do loss.
Break it down for me.
I'll say it again.
How you do life is how you do loss.
How you do life is how you do loss.
Let me hear this.
So if you're a person who, and on top of that is grief will meet you where you are. So let's just break that down. If you're a person that generally will find solutions to things, you're going to also operate in that state as a person in grief. So it makes sense that I would have launched a podcast, that I made a children's book after my grandmother. It was me and her as characters, and I just responded. I created a platform for other people. This is just what I do. So it's me also grieving in this way. Someone who makes a lot of excuses, someone who will be real like reclusive and become isolated and just normal things, they're probably going to also be that way in their grief. It's also the same thing of someone being able to support somebody in their grief, because that is a topic that doesn't get as much, I guess, highlight on or conversation, is that person that's supporting someone. So what I'm saying is that, like, if you're in a relationship, right, whoever you're dating, your girlfriend, fiance, whatever, wife, whoever, if they don't normally like show up for you in certain ways, when someone dies close to you, you like, it's going to be kind of hard to
show up,
to expect them to be different because your circumstance changed. That doesn't make somebody become different. We are who we are. Like, you don't just become a different person in terms of how you handle it. Sure, the grief can make you change in terms of like, hey, I was outgoing and this, but like now I'm like really sad and depressed. But like, that's something that you'll work through. But as far as how you handle it, that's what I learned. Is like how you it makes sense in my life and the people that I've seen, that even though you are struggling to an extent, you're still getting things done, or you're still going to work. Or some people who is like, man, when tough times come, you just kind of like cave.
Yeah, you just fold. Yeah, some people got that.
And it's not saying it's a bad thing. I'm saying that it's be easy on yourself. Like, you just can't show up as somebody totally different because you want this to go away.
I don't know if this is the right advice, but this is how I feel. When you truly care about somebody, and you know they're going through grief, you got to pop up. You have to physically put arms around them. And because you could always shoot them my condolences, you can call on the phone. But I know when going through that pain, the hug of a best friend is so powerful. You know what I'm saying? There's two men hugging, you know what I mean? And when you're that close, it's so important to get that hug. Is no better way to show a person you're there for them than to actually be there physically for them.
One of the guests on the show, unfortunately, he was on my show not too long ago. He lost his brother and some other folks, and he just recently, unfortunately, lost his mom and first cousin in the same week, same side of the family, and he's going to come back on the show soon and talk. So when this happened with his mom, he posted on Facebook, like, I have so many people calling me and texting me, and all of these things. He was like, pull up, like, you know where I am. So he literally is saying, like, I don't want to hear all that. If you need anything, and ask me all this stuff, like, you know where I am. So just come here. Like, why are y'all doing that? But I also think I understand 1,000% where he's at with that. But from people on the other side of it, I've understood that you don't know, like, what to do, and you don't want to be doing too much. You don't want to smother people. You don't want to get in the way, and so sometimes that silence though becomes offensive. But you're really just trying to navigate. So what I say to people is, hey, ask that person, what does support look like to you? It's just like the love languages, like how I give support and how you receive it is different. I might want to call you and talk to you, or I might want to come to your house, and you might be like, I don't want you to come to my house. Just don't, like. But we do too much guessing, and then sometimes, again, we just rather retreat and not say nothing. And then somebody gonna be like, yo, when I was going through that,
he ain't come through my... Yeah, that's how I be.
And then a person like, well, I didn't want to just pull up. I didn't really know, because, again, we go back to, a lot of us have not been exposed or guided, if you will, on how to navigate through this. So it's just, what I always tell people is that showing up, communicating probably won't be... It would be a better offense than the opposite. So if it's like, I went to their house and they slammed the door in my face, and they told me I don't want no company. I mean, I did go to your house. You know, back to the friend that parent recently went through something. His mom was in like a facility, first a hospital, then a facility, and it could be selfish, but I felt like internally, I just couldn't go.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if part of it has to do with, again, the last place I saw my dad and my grandma were in hospitals.
Yeah.
So, like, I don't know if it's that, and I'm like scared because we've been friends for decades. So his mom is someone that I really care about, and I'm just like, I don't know if I could do this. So I just, hitting them, bro, I love you. Like, what do you need? Like, let me know this and that. And I'm trying to go there now that she's home. Trying to go there now, and even still, I feel like I had to be honest. So this is the thing too. I told him, I was like, I just have like a lot of anxiety. And I think sometimes we don't feel like we can communicate that because that's that person's first experience. So how am I going to tell you that me going to see your mom makes me feel anxious when it's you're going through the worst thing?
Of it.
But it's like, no, but two things can be true at the same time. I'm telling you why I haven't done it so that you don't have to guess and think, well, I didn't care enough. It's like, no, but I don't know what's going to be like when I look at your mom and she can't talk to me.
Right.
When my whole life, every time I've seen your mom, she talks to me. I don't know what that moment's going to be like. I'm serious. I picture opening the door and like going in her house and just being like,
what's going on?
Hell? You know what I mean? So you could think like you need to get over it. Like that's your friend. That's like, yeah, I understand that, but I also got to be honest about how I feel.
Yeah, honesty is important. I mean, with yourself, I don't know. That's one of the ones I don't know.
It's a tough thing, but I think that uncomfortable is better than resentment. So a lot of times we don't have certain conversations because it's uncomfortable, rather than it creating resentment on either side.
But the regret of not going. All right, so the regret of not showing up. I think, and this goes back to the talking about making sure you say I love you, because it could be the last time you talk to him. I think the regret of not going would be so much more painful. You know what I mean? So I'm with you. You have to just...
Yeah, but I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
I'm going to do it. But I had to say, like, this is the reason. It's not lack of availability. It's not lack of schedule. Because I had to ask myself. I'm like, yo, why do you keep thinking like, okay, you're going to go, I'm going to go to the hospital. Okay, yeah. You know what? When she goes to like the rehab,
I'm going to come through there, yeah.
And then I'm like, yo, what is going on? Like, and I'm like, I just feel whatever is going on. And I also think it would be different if maybe if it was a different friend. So this friend, we have a relationship, at least I like to believe that we can be that honest, and that he knows that like anything he needs from me, if he was to call me, even in my
you would do it.
Weird emotion, and be like, hey, I'm at the rehab with my mom, can you come? I'm not going to say, no, I'm sorry, I can't do it. I will do it. He has a huge support system. And so it's not like a person that he has a beautiful fiance, like he has a big family. So it's not like that. But again, so I think it's situational.
But also by holding those variables in, that he has a beautiful support system and all of that, are just other excuses for why you're not making the conscious effort to get there. And I know we all do it though.
I'm saying,
but I know what you're saying. I know exactly what you're saying. I think we all do.
Yeah, but so to your point, I don't know if I would say it was an excuse, but it could be like, not like a pass, but something to make me feel less guilty about it, possibly, for sure. Yeah. So not like, oh yeah, it's an excuse, but it is like, well, I guess it could be kind of.
No, it's not an excuse, but I know what you mean.
No, because it is true.
But it's not like I'm just intentionally making this excuse. I think we trick our brains into putting those hurdles in our way.
It definitely has been. It definitely has been like, well. I know he's not alone. I know they got a lot of people over there. And because even he communicated, it's a lot of people coming through, because a lot of people felt that way too. Like, oh, well, now that like she's home, we can pull up. You know what I mean? It's a little bit different, but it's still just tough in that experience. But so grieving and living and just like going through all those things is certainly a real thing. At times people could feel like it's more difficult because especially if it's like years and years and years, is like, when will this actually end? What, like, if the person is out of their mind or whatever the case is, it's like, this is just ongoing going to be, versus, hey, this person died, like, it's terrible, but then the other side of it is, at least if that person's alive, there's a possibility of things getting better, maybe, or like we may talk or whatever the situation is. But I'll chalk it up to life is tough. I'm glad we had this short Q&A
I'm glad.
dialogue.
I appreciate you. I appreciate all your help. Again, I got this nice discounted therapy session from you, and I appreciate that. Save me a few dollars.
Free is a heck of a discount.
I take the 100% off discount.
Yeah, listen, anytime I'll be here. I appreciate you tuning. I appreciate you guys tuning in. I appreciate you being on here for this short round of just a little Q&A.
I appreciate you.
So guys, till next time, you already know. Love and light. Peace.